Welcome to the Schools of Excellence podcast, a place for insightful conversations about building sustainable schools of excellence. Join me each week as we explore the importance of leading with your values, creating impact, and leaving a lasting legacy. My goal on the show is to provide you with clarity, elevate your mindset, and equip you with practical strategies and inspiration. I'm Chanie, a proud mother of four, a former New Yorker, now savoring sunny Florida vibes. With a professional journey spanning 18 years across all levels of school leadership, I bring nuanced insight that delve into the intricate details of running a center, as well as the broader visionary aspects of leadership. Thank you for joining me for this conversation. Let's build a legacy of excellence together. Today's conversation really just came about because I've been talking to school leaders over the last several weeks, and really in the last 48 hours, a lot of people are talking about the challenges of immediate cash flow, optimizing their activity and their calendars because there's so many priorities that they have, and they're trying to figure out how to make sure that their activity is optimized for profit, and then also understanding your strategic advantage over universal pre-K. So let's start with immediate cash flow boost. Okay. Right. What's happening right now is the beginning of the school year has started. For some of you, it's several weeks already in. For some of you, you start after Labor Day. And so what happens now is a lot of leaders are looking at their budgets through a fine-tooth comb and really trying to figure out, okay, where can I cut without compromising quality? Where do I find cash right now? So I want to share just a couple of different strategies of how you can get cash in the door pretty quickly. So the first thing is you want to look at is actually picking up your registration fee. So this is something that was really interesting to me just to speak with leaders in the last 48 hours, how little people charge for the registration fee to register their child for preschool, for elementary school, for any school. So registration for a lot of people that I've heard is about $75 to like $100 registration per child. You can charge way more for registration per child in a private school. I paid $300 per child, and I have 4 kids per child for registration. That's just registering the child to register to get a spot. It's not even that you'll be secured to get a spot. If they don't end up having a spot, some schools refund it, some schools don't. It's a registration fee. When I register my kids, I also pay a registration fee. That registration fee ends up going towards the tuition for camp. But everyone has to pay a registration fee to secure a spot. Now, the client that I was speaking with a couple of days ago, she has 7 schools. And so I had advised her to pick up the registration fee to $300 per child. She said in 3 schools she can do it because the market would bear that. In her other schools, she would pick it up by $100. Great. Small, simple step. Just want you to understand context of the range of what people charge in private schools for registration. In 2011, when I worked in New York City, the registration fee per child for toddlers was $2,500, $2,500 for registration. That was not tuition. Tuition was on top of registration. And that was over 16 years ago. So understand that there's the run of the gamut, and part of building a successful and profitable childcare business is understanding to do your research and see what the market will bear and what people will pay. So that's the first thing, is look at increasing your registration fee. The second thing is looking at accelerating your accounts receivable. So you can look at failed credit card payments. Whenever we have clients run through this exercise of looking at the last 30 days of payments that went through, where did anything not go through? Did any failed credit card payments go through? A lot of times you have other add-on services like morning, early care or aftercare, and parents will take it as a one-time thing, or I just, an extra drop-off piece, and parents aren't paying for the service that the school provided. Going through the last 30 days and seeing, 1 second, this parent, did early drop-off for 10 days and they didn't pay for it. Going to the parent and, asking for the payment, right? Accounts receivable. Another thing that you can do as well is, as we enter towards the end of 2024, people are looking at different tax saving strategy, or tax write-off. And depending on obviously where you live, for child tax credit, offering parents that if they pay in full before the end of the year, or they pay in full for the next 30 days, they could get a certain percentage discount. The only reason to do that is if you really need cash in the door right now and you need cash, you can message. I wouldn't do a giant email blast, message a couple of different families who you know can possibly do this and say, hey, we're offering a special promotion in the next 45 days. If you pay up your balance before the end of 2024, you get X% off, and then you get the cash in the door immediately. So that's a really great option as well. The other thing you want to look at cash flow boost is renegotiating contracts with suppliers. All of you have different suppliers that you use for food, for inventory, for wherever you're getting supplies from, Amazon, whatever it is. Looking at your suppliers and saying, where can we renegotiate a better deal for the things that we buy in bulk, for the things that we need inside of our business. If you are paying rent or you have a lease or whatever it is, relooking at those contracts as well. Relooking at busing contracts, communication, transportation, food, all of these things that are cost a lot of money, seeing where you can renegotiate the contract to get cash in the door. Last thing to look at is some of the other money leaks. So in the last couple of weeks, I've been sharing an entire series on the 7 money leaks in childcare. You can definitely go watch that series. It's free on my social channels as well. One of the money leaks that you want to look at inside of childcare that bring cash in the door right away is underutilized spaces. So underutilized spaces meaning your class is not at full capacity, your building is not operating at least 80% capacity, or you have spaces, multi-purpose rooms that you can rent out. Look at your facility and say, where can we get cash in the door right now? Can we rent out this multi-purpose room for birthday parties, for events, for engagement parties, for whatever it is, right? There's like all different kinds of crazy parties that people do now. We had a client who rented out their multi-purpose room for a bachelorette party over the weekend. And they, again, part of renting out their space was they had an add-on fee where it was like, you rent out the space for X amount of money, and then this is what it costs for the cleaning fee. Airbnb does it. All different business models do it. You charge an extra cleaning fee. Your cleaning crew that you usually have that comes and cleans the childcare center at the end of every day comes, cleans up the giant mess, and then the kids walk in Monday morning and it's clean. There's a lot of different ways that you can get creative, and I'm sharing a bunch of them here, and we have so many others that we teach inside of Schools of Excellence. The first thing you need to remember when it comes to the need for cash flow and for relooking at your strategic advantage over universal free pre-K, you need to take a deep breath and understand that the emotions of uncertainty and fear are emotions that you feel whenever you're doing something difficult. Anytime you're about to do something hard, anytime you're about to jump into something that's really hard, you are going to feel uncertain and you're going to feel fear. And if you're watching this and you've been married and you're married, you know that before your wedding, even if you're 1,000% certain you're marrying the right person, you still will feel jitters. You still will feel some bouts of uncertainty, some bouts of like, oh my God, this is so exciting and it's so scary and it's so uncertain. Yeah, you're entering a whole new era of your life. Before you have your first child, before you have your second child, before you send your kid off to college, before you do anything as momentous and as hard as raising a family, running a business, you are going to feel uncertainty and fear. It is going to feel ambiguous. This concept where, and again, I talk about this all the time, because we are growing up in a world where everything is instant gratification. Walmart comes immediately, Amazon comes immediately, Uber comes immediately, all of these things, Netflix, whatever you want is literally at your fingertips. The moment you feel any type of uncertainty, the moment you feel any type of, I'm not sure what's going to happen, your body is immediately signaling this is danger. It's not danger. You're not in a dangerous situation. You're not in a life-threatening situation. You're in an uncomfortable situation and you can figure out how to get out of it. There are ways to move out of this. Approaching this with uncertainty and fear and scarcity is going to guarantee that you're not going to be able to get the results that you desire. It's taking a deep breath and understanding you can be in control about how you respond. You'll action these items, you'll see what works, you'll come back to the drawing board, you'll revisit other strategies. You will get out of this. You will get out of this mess. Okay? Great. So those are some cash flow ideas. Now let's move on to optimizing your activity for profit-driven results. So one of the things that I talk about a lot when it comes to childcare, whether you're a teacher, a director, or an owner, is every single problem that you're experiencing inside of your role is a calendar problem. Every single problem starts with a calendar problem. When teachers come to me and they say, I'm having behavioral issues in the classroom, the first thing I do is I look at their schedule of the day. When a director comes to me and says, there's so many call outs, there's so many issues, I'm constantly subbing inside of classrooms, I don't have time to do observations, I don't have time to do one-on-ones, I don't have time to do performance reviews, I don't have time to do X, Y, and Z, the first thing I look at is their calendar. When an owner tells me they have a profit problem, they have a cash flow problem, they have an enrollment issue, the first thing I'm going to look at is your calendar. Your calendar drives profit results. What do I mean by that? Well, the first thing is, what you have to understand is, when you're writing down your list of to-dos of like, oh, these are all the things that I need to do in order to get enrollment up, in order to get my profitability out of the red, that's your to-do list. You need to make sure your to-do list is working in alignment with your calendar. If you don't have blocks of time in your calendar to actually action profit-driven activity, you're not going to have profit-driven activity inside of your business. So let's talk about what that actually looks like. And this is applicable even for those of you that have wait lists. Wait lists are not designed in concrete. They're in the sand. They can blow in the wind in a second. One day you can have a wait list. 5 days later, the wait list could be gone. Do not rely on the fact that you just have a wait list and you have full classrooms. That's amazing. You need to make sure you're constantly doing activity that either drives enrollment or increases parent retention, short term, long term, right? So let's dive in. When you are trying to figure out how to increase enrollment, you need to first look at, and this is so basic, tours and first impressions. Is the person who's leading tours effective on tour techniques and understands how to close? They need to understand how to sell the product. Now, you can be like, I know how to sell the product. We do have amazing people that are running tours. We're still not closing. Okay, then let's look at the second thing. What is the product that you're offering? So and this ties into understanding universal free pre-K versus your private school. What drove parents to come to your center historically or until now was one particular thing, or maybe a combination of a couple of things. What's going to have them coming to you now and in the next couple of years or months is going to be something different. This is where you need to reassess your offerings. What is your actual offering in your childcare space? You cannot sound like everyone else. Then you're vanilla. You can't just say, oh, we have a small class size, we have a state-of-the-art facility, we have this, yada. I could fill in the blanks for all your websites. I could literally write everyone's website because everyone's website is exactly the same. How are you standing out? What is your differentiator? Truly, what is your differentiator? Really understanding that and making sure that you're positioning that offer properly. Let's go back to calendar. What does it mean to actually have activity in your calendar that drives enrollment? Prospecting and lead generation. I cannot tell you how many people run a tour and the parent says, well, think about it, we're not sure. And then they do one follow up and they let the lead go cold. One follow up is not enough. First of all, the fortune is always in the follow up. Most families are not going to sign up at the door. After buying a house, tuition is your most expensive line item. Look at your own personal financials. You have your mortgage payments and then tuition payments, right? That is literally the second most expensive thing that parents are paying for when they're choosing private school. I didn't buy a house in 4 seconds. I didn't buy a house just after we sold the first house that we saw. No, we actually looked around. What is the best house for our family and our needs? Parents are going to do the same thing. Not just is this the most expensive decision that they're going to be making, this is their child. Your school is going to feed their child's brain for 9 hours a day. Your value system, your infrastructure, your belief structure, all of the ways that you train your staff, that teacher has access to my child for 8 hours a day. They talk to them, they engage with them, they make eye contact with them, they play with them, they sit on the floor with them. I am going to be unbelievably discerning about who gets to have that access to my kid, who gets to feed my child's brain. Going back to the piece of the strategic advantage, there are millions of Americans across this country that would never send their kids to government schools or public schools because of this reason. Parents make educational decisions for their child based on values. You think they're making it based on convenience or this or that. Those are all the surface level stuff. They are making this decision on values. What are the values of your school? Is that coming to the family? Is that coming to the actual is that coming to the family? Is that coming to the actual prospect where now they actually understand, oh, this is what's going to be happening inside of this center? This is what's going to be going on inside of here, right? Understand the demographic that you're speaking to, right? And this is very city specific, state specific, county specific. Are you messaging to the families why your school is the best option for their child? Now, again, when we go back to the strategic advantage, you can't BS parents. You can't lie to them, right? And it's very important to understand that. Like, say the truth. Please have integrity. Now, what do I mean by that? I was looking at someone's campaign and they were talking about how sending your child there is giving them the best education. This gives them such an advantage in life. There is zero data to prove that when a child goes to a private preschool, now all of a sudden they're going to have an amazing education. They're going to get into this amazing college, and therefore they're going to have an amazing marriage, and they're going to have an amazing family, and they're going to have a great job. There's zero data to correlate that. People who lead successful lives and who have great jobs and build beautiful families are people of character and integrity and values, not which preschool they went to. Okay, stop lying to yourself. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you offer a premium educational experience. Why does that matter? It's not, parent is not making the decision of like, oh, if I send them here, then they're going to get into this amazing college and then they're going to have an amazing life and amazing job. No, sending their child to your preschool is not going to determine if they're going to get all of those things. Their character, their integrity, their values, their discipline, their consistency, and so many other factors that go along with that. So why is that important to understand? Because it stops selling. We have a premium educational experience. Talk about the values. When we were choosing a high school of where to send Mendel, we were looking at who is the leadership in that school? What is their belief structure? What is their value system? What is their philosophy? What is the end product of someone who graduates from this high school? Where do they go on for higher education learning? Where do they move on in life to? What's the product, right? What's the end result of someone who graduates from this school? What happens here? What's your technology rules? What is it? All of these things? Because guess what? You have access to my child's brain, their heart, their soul, their mind for hours on end. Now, the other thing that a lot of people will tell me is like, you can't fight free. Yes, you can. There are people who will never send their child to government schools, no matter what's going on in their budget. It doesn't matter what's going on in their budget. When we were raising our young kids in New York City and we were up to our eyeballs in debt, over $30,000 in debt, I did not pull my kids out of private school and put them into public school. I did not do that. We figured it out. We figured it out. We ate ramen noodles for a week. We had bread. I had cereal. We didn't have proteins in the house for several weeks because we couldn't afford it. It doesn't matter. It didn't matter to me because I didn't buy new clothes for like 3 years. It didn't matter. My kids are only going to these schools. So you have to understand the buying psychology of a parent who chooses private school and why they're choosing to send their child there. And they're ready to let go of other things that other people find super important, right? I was talking to another family yesterday and they were like, well, our school's like a 30-minute drive away, so it's like really difficult for families. I was like, let me tell you something. If I audited all those families, I know that 80% of them have kids in sports, and they will travel 90 minutes to get their child to a sports team. And the director, like, she just like face palm and she's like, oh my God, absolutely. They drive 2 hours to go to these different. I said, exactly. Why does the parent drive 2 hours to send their child to that sports team, but says, oh, I can't do the commute of 30 minutes to school? They don't value it. They value the sports team. They don't value the education there, which is fine. Don't judge them. Just understand that's not their value system. Stop trying to speak to the surface level things. You got to get to the root of it. What is the value system there? What do the parents actually want? And make sure that your product aligns with that. Now, some of you are listening and saying, that's a lot of work. Hell yeah, it's a lot of work. Of course it is, because you have to know what it is that you're offering. You have to understand what it is that you're offering. So let's go back to prospecting and lead generation. Family does a tour. They do one outbound message. They follow up. They're like, hey, just following up. No, you sound like a used car salesman. It's not, hey, just following up. Are you adding value on each interaction that you're having with the family? Sometimes when you're connecting with someone who had a tour 2-3 weeks ago, you're not saying, hey, just want to follow up if you made a decision. They're going to ghost you. They're going to ignore you. Send value. Hey, I know it's the beginning of the school year. You have a 3-year-old and a newborn. I wanted to send you this great article that I just read on morning routines. I wanted to send you this amazing podcast that I listened to on, sleeping or co-sleeping, because I know that you had mentioned on the tour that, your 2 kids are sleeping together and each one is waking each other up. I just wanted to share this with you. Hope you're doing well. Wishing you an amazing start to the school year. That's it. No ask, no following up, no did you make a decision? None of that. Here is value. Here is value for you. Now, this takes work, this takes thought, this takes dedication. And your directors will tell you, I don't have time. The teacher called out. Someone knocked on the door. She needed toilet paper. She needed to plunge the toilet. Great. Plunging toilets and giving people toilet paper doesn't bring cash in the door, doesn't bring enrollment. You need a block of time on your calendar every single day that is prospecting and outbound messaging to families. Now, another thing that I hear from owners a lot, well, this director doesn't do enrollment. If you are struggling with enrollment, no one on your leadership team gets to have the privilege to say, I don't do that. Sorry, in a contracted economy, you do that. So we're going to get that on your calendar, and I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to give you the scripts. I'm going to give you the templates. I'm going to give you the guidelines. We do all of this inside of Schools of Excellence. We need to understand how we have to shift our leadership and the way that we're holding our teams accountable when we are riding a storm. Again, one of my favorite quotes from Maya Angelou: every storm runs out of rain. Every storm runs out of rain. When the storm runs out of rain, where are you going to be standing? Where are you going to be standing? Okay. So tourism, first impression, follow up and nurturing, prospecting and lead generation. Like I said, following with prospects after the initial contact, follow up with leads. Every single one of your directors should have a leads list in their calendar block. So on their Google Calendar, it says follow up with leads list. When they click on that, it should drop down into a spreadsheet that gives them the leads list of anyone who has come to do a tour or an inquiry in the last 6 months. They should start re-engaging with those families. So let's continue to look through where else are we going to get the understanding to understand our strategic advantage over free pre-K and bring in more cash. You need to get hard data. You cannot run by anecdotal data. So many leaders run by anecdotal data. Like, I heard this parent say this person said this person said that, I heard this at morning drop off, I heard this at dismissal. Those are all great things that add to your data points, but you also need real data. You need parent surveys. You need to understand, what do the families look for? Where do you need to improve services? So many leaders are like, I think we need to improve. You think? Do you think your family still value this, right? We just had a family who did one of the parent surveys in Schools of Excellence. We have templates for parent surveys so leaders can plug and play. Ain't nobody got time to reinvent the wheel. She sent out a parent survey. They were serving lunches like organic food or something like that. She did the survey. 2% of her family said that they still value that. 2%. 98% of families are not sending their kids for that reason. She cut that out of the budget. She cut that out of the line item. Great. Use the resources for something else. You need data to make decisions. You need data to make decisions. Another component from the data is, we had a client, when she did the data, she realized that the market would be able to bear for her to raise tuition. She raised tuition. I think she lost 3 or 4 families and she was panicking. And I said, let me teach you a hard rule in real estate. Okay. Again, real estate in New York, real estate wherever you are. When you own a building or a property, you should always have a 5% vacancy in your buildings. This applies across the board, but especially in like high places like New York City, San Francisco, LA, Miami, any of these places. Why should you have a 5% vacancy? If you don't have a 5% vacancy, you aren't charging enough. If you have a wait list, you aren't charging enough for tuition, right? The market will bear. So you have to reposition the offer and see where. Now, you cannot cry when 2 or 3 families leave. Part of the cycle of life is different families will come in, different families will leave. Right now, if you have a mass exodus of 30 people, you probably didn't do the data right in understanding, could the market bear this percentage of tuition increase? Okay. Let's continue. I have a couple more minutes and I want to share a couple more strategies with you. So let's go back to the strategic advantage over universal pre-K, right? When you're selling a service where the other service that's available in your city is free, you need to stop coming from the mindset of like, well, I can't fight free. You shouldn't be fighting free. You're not fighting against anyone. Your offer is a completely different offer. Someone who goes to choose to send their child to universal pre-K where there's 27 kids in a classroom with one teacher is a joke. It's a joke. 27 kids in a classroom with one teacher is a joke. They're not getting educated. It's a joke. It's a zoo. So this is not about you saying, well, we have a smaller class size and we have this and we have clean furniture and we use eco-friendly stuff and, everything is biodegradable and we don't use any single-use plastic. Like, you need to understand who you're talking to. Does the family even care about that? Right? Like, so I was talking to someone and she was literally, I'm like, does the parent care about that? I don't care about those things. I wouldn't send my child because you're doing, eco-friendly stuff. That's a great add-on, but I wouldn't go and actually open my wallet and pay because you're using eco-friendly stuff. That's not the reason I'm sending my child there, right? I care about who the staff are, what the school values are, what the curriculum is. What are you teaching my child? What is actually going on in that classroom? What is my child coming home with? Who are the other families inside of that my child is going to be friends with? That is what I care about. That's what I want to know about. Now, that is that particular school. You need to understand, what do your families care about? And far too many of you have actually no idea what your families really care about in this season. Values switch, priorities change. People want different things in different seasons of life, in different chapters, depending on what's happening in the economic or political landscape. You need to do surveys. You need to do research and find out, what do your families want now? And is your product going to deliver that? Is your product going to deliver that? Okay. The other advantage to look at while this universal pre-K thing is going on is revamping your messages for your infant and toddler program. Really understanding how to craft compelling value propositions. Understand the value proposition for your infant and toddler program. What are you, do not be vanilla like everyone. We have a state-of-the-art facility. Everyone does that. Be specific. Understand what you're selling. Understand your product. Okay. Highlight the benefits and the developmental advantages of sending their child to an infant and toddler program. Understand how to leverage success stories and testimonials, right? This is where you really need the families, the teachers to speak on this, right? And again, so many are like, I don't have a video crew. I can't do testimonials. That costs too much money. Again, excuses. Take your phone. iPhones are unbelievably versatile. Open it up. Have a parent sit down in your office. It doesn't need to be fancy, and just say, can you share with us a little bit about your experience? This is your third toddler inside of our program. I'd love for you to speak to a family and share with them about your experience, why you choose to send your children here, why this is your third child that you're sending here, why you trust this center, why this is the only option for you. Ask the right questions. Again, we have all of these templates inside of our program, the templates, the questions, what to ask, how to do, and get out of the perfectionist mindset of like, I need the right lighting. I need the right diva lamp. I need the right video crew. No, you don't. Take your iPhone, open the window shade so sunlight's coming in, sit the person down, make sure there's no clutter and garbage, and shoot. Boom, you're done. Next parent. Like, you gotta take messy action if you want to be able to leverage these opportunities here. Okay, where else are you looking at? Okay, understanding how to tailor market strategies to parent demographics. This is like such an underutilized strategy and advantage that a lot of school leaders aren't working. When I talk next Tuesday, in a couple days, I'm doing another live streaming on my retention intelligence framework. And one of the things that I talk about is understanding your staff demographics, because retention differs depending on the staff demographics. You have different parent demographics inside of your center. No school has one type of parent demographic. Nobody. Everyone has a diverse group of families, okay? You need to understand your unique parent demographics, whether it's 3 or 4 buckets, and are you creating messaging that targets those particular families, right? Certain families do care about the eco-friendly and the single-use plastic and the organic food and all of that kind of stuff. Certain don't give a crap about that. They care about the values and who the teachers are and their training and their education. Other people care about the leadership and their value system and their philosophy. You have to understand who you're talking to. And are you crafting the message to that unique family? Are you fishing in all of the right ponds? So that's an understanding just of demographic. The last thing you want to look at is adjusting your preschool product. Do you need to look at other services to add to your original product? Now, again, going back to the calendar that I spoke about earlier, leaders would tell me, I don't have time to develop a product. Of course you don't have time, because you're running around covering ships like your chicken with your head cut off. Make a time block on your calendar that says brainstorm new product offerings. Create a 3-hour block, close your door, turn your phone on airplane mode, and go into brainstorming mode. Be disciplined, get your butt in the chair and do the work. So many of you are constantly married to the excuses. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that. You do have time. Put the block, close the door, turn the phone off, sit in the chair, and figure out what is the additional product and brainstorming services that we can offer families. What could we actually do? That's what it means to actually have your calendar optimized for profit. A 3-hour block of time figuring out what's the next service is a $10,000 an hour activity versus what you're probably doing during those 3 hours, scrolling social media, running around the building saying, does anyone need anything? Stop. Stop over functioning. Stop people pleasing. Stop. Just stop. It isn't working. It isn't keeping your staff. It isn't keeping your families, and it's hurting your profit. Make blocks of time and be disciplined and consistent about prospecting, lead nurturing, offering new services, creating different campaigns. That is where you're going to be able to do this. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about here is strengthening your brand in uncertain times. For those of you that are not struggling with any of these things, however, you are looking at what is the next thing that I need to work on to ride this storm in this contracted economy. You need to look at strengthening your brand. Understand how to emphasize the stability and the adaptability in your messaging to your families, showcasing your commitment to quality education despite the economic challenges. Make sure that you have multiple different opportunities for parents to engage with you so you can build trust through transparency and consistent communication. Far too many of you do not have enough parent engagement opportunities for families to actually engage with the school, with the staff. A lot of you have resistance to it. You're like, the teachers don't like when the parents come in. I don't like it. Da, 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 da. Then learn the skills of how to sit in the discomfort and be okay with families coming in. We need to create that relationship with families. Now, again, it's 32 minutes here. I shared like 40 different ideas, all these different angles. Take a moment and pause, go back and rewatch the replay and ask yourself, what is my next action item? What is my next action item based on today and how I'm going to ride the storm in the next 2 weeks? And then you reassess again. Put a block on your calendar that says reassessing the storm. What is the next thing that I need to do? Stop trying to do step 50 before you do step 1. Step 1, what is the first action step you're going to take based on all the different ideas here? I want to thank you all for joining me. We can all do hard things together. Our schools and our industry have seen the most unbelievably challenging times. 2020, now we're sitting over here. Before 2020, there were so many challenging seasons in the landscape of education. We will ride through this season as well. Sending you all a lot of love.
If you are loving the Schools of Excellence podcast and have gotten any value out of it for your school, I would love if you can do 2 things for me. 1, subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. And 2, can you please leave us a review? Reviews help other school leaders know that this is the place to learn how to build a school of excellence. And I would be so grateful if you can do that for us. Your help and support makes this show to be able to be listened by the thousands of other school leaders all around the world. Thanks so much for listening, for giving us your time and attention each and every week, and I appreciate that you have joined us.